Hey, how are you? Happy holidays. Merry Friday. I am Chris Robin,
Oh,
aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Dave at Corporal Eddie at the Fantasy Six Pack. We're going to be talking some Friday night DFS Den live for
ooh.
all of you. We're not on the same side of town, but we are in the same state, and it's
Yeah,
just
we're
been
close.
doomy.
We're close.
It's been doomy and gloomy and kind of cold and rainy all day. One of
Yeah.
those days where you just want to lay in bed, but as adults, you're not allowed to do that, right? I guess if you're a contributing member to society, you can't lay in bed all day. So we do our notes, we go to work,
Mhm.
we punch a clock, we do whatever we can to get by on a daily basis. So how are we doing today? And what is your Friday night looking like after we're done here?
What's my Friday night looking like after this? Probably. Well, you know what? We were this close to having a Braden intro tonight. We were that close. Call of Duty is update. No, it's well, kind of. Call of Duty is updating as we speak. Um, he hasn't been over here for like a week and a half or whatever, a little longer than normal. Just the way. Anyways, um, so he hasn't logged on in a minute. So there was an update that needed to happen, and so I was like, well, hey, bud, if we got the update rocking and rolling, you don't have the normal excuse. Well, now tonight, it ends up being he's watching YouTube while eating some mint moose track ice cream.
Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
yeah, so he wanted me to tell everyone, and I don't know how this was going to make sense, but I'll say it not necessarily the way he wanted me to. But he said he wants me to tell everyone that he's busy with an exam. He's taking an exam. So I don't even know what that would entail. But that's what he wanted me to say. So I kind of said it, but I kind of called him out at the same time. But
Your
dude,
son lied to you. Your son lied to you and then
he
got
didn't
you to
lie to
read the
me.
lie, and then you believe the lie that you read at the same time.
No, he didn't lie to me. He wanted me to lie to you. Like
Oh, he wants me to think that he's
he
taking an
wants
exam.
everyone. He wants everyone to think he's not doing the intro because he's taking an exam, which again doesn't make any sense. It's Friday night, 7:30 here on the
And it's
East Coast.
Christmas break. Yeah, there's no
Yeah. So
exams
how
to be
he's
had.
yeah. So it didn't make sense to begin with. So no, he didn't lie to me, but he wanted me to pass along said lie.
He
But
needs help being a liar, and I know a really good
uh,
guy if he needs one.
yeah. But today has been gloomy. You know how I know it's been gloomy. Today's the first day since I put my Christmas lights up that I've got like the what is it, like the sensor, little plug where the lights turn on automatically when it turns into dusk and stuff. It has been on all day. They have not turned off at all today, not one time. And I've had it go to 10, 11 o'clock in the afternoon a couple of times. But today was the first day they stayed on the entire day. So I've had these beautiful lights. Christmas tree's been lit up. Day off of work for me, so I just been chilling at home for the most part, just enjoying some lights, man. So gloomy
That's
weather be
beautiful.
damned.
Yeah, and as we're speaking of lights, when we look at the quarterback slate this week, and
Ugh,
I've mentioned it in the quarterback bottom of the barrel. A little late this week, it came out this morning. This slate is chopped up like 9 or 10 different ways. It's like if
hate it.
you're at a sushi bar, it'd be boom, boom, boom. It's sliced up, but the main slate is 9 games, and that's realistically what we discuss. I will be on live tomorrow around 2:30, 3 o'clock sometime with Fantasy Six Pack, just going over the 3 game Saturday slate. But when we look at Sunday on the main slate, just kicking it off here, Dak Prescott is the most expensive quarterback. And for some odd reason, Dallas is going to Miami, and Miami's 18th overall against the opposing quarterbacks. Dallas just got their asses kicked by Buffalo. It's kind of fun, right? You see a team. I
Yeah.
mean, they call Dallas America's team, and the Dallas Cowboys fans are, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, you're really into it. But if you don't care about the Cowboys, you don't care, or you love to see them lose. And they got their asses kicked by Buffalo, and he played awful. All the MVP talk went away, but then they give him, at least on FanDuel, at least Dak is the highest priced quarterback. And so for when we're looking at a cash game perspective, Dave, on the main slate, where's your head at right now? I mean, I know we had Flacco is on the on the thumbnail, and he's in
Yeah.
bottom of the barrel. But where else are you going for cash games on the main slate?
Let me take a step back and say that this week has been the absolute toughest to put together a cash pool. So a little behind the scenes, pull back the curtain, as you like to say. what I usually do for, our all access members in the Discord is on Tuesday, I go ahead, run some stuff, put out my initial pool. And, usually that's not too difficult. It's, just kind of, just the gut reaction and say, these are the guys at the positions that I'm looking at. It can be a robust list that gets trimmed down, as the week goes on. But man, I didn't even put that list out on Tuesday because it was rough. It was rough. It was smaller than the list typically is come like a Friday. There's so many questionable players, guys, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, just to name a few, guys that were going to be in the pool. To be honest with you, this week, with the way that everything was looking, if Zach Wilson would have been healthy, he probably would have been my cash quarterback, as crazy as that sounds. And then now we've even got the wide receiver position is really it's really finicky. So I updated the pool in the Discord for the members, but I put a note in there that said, hey, I know it's Friday night. We're usually pretty locked in, but take this with a huge grain of salt because there's going to be some wide receivers that are going to trickle in. And I didn't want to sit there and name a whole bunch of guys. And so I just left those guys away. These are the guys that are going to be a consideration, but there's going to be some more. So the quarterback has really flipped around for me. Like you said, Joe Flacco's been there the whole time. Initially I was honestly looking at, like I said, Zach Wilson, but he got ruled out. Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he's playing. And then, good Lord, man, I was even looking at Taylor Heineke was the guy that, I texted you and Keith, and I had said, God help me, but, Joe Flacco, Taylor Heineke are kind of guys that I'm looking at, and I kind of wanted Keith's perspective because we know he's an Atlanta fan. But, as we've settled down a little bit here, I'm looking at Joe Flacco. I'm looking at Justin Fields. You know how I like those, cheat code running, cheat code Jesus Christ, cheat code quarterbacks that can run the ball. And Justin Fields is obviously that guy. So he's always intriguing to me. The matchup here is pretty solid too. I don't have my normal notes this week. I know Chris knows that, but this week's been crazy for me. I don't have my normal notes to go off of. So when I look over this way, just know that I'm gathering information here. But Fields going up against Arizona. Arizona is 22nd scheduled adjusted fantasy points to quarterbacks. So we know, he's probably going to, do even better than that with his legs. And then Flacco gets Houston 29th scheduled adjusted fantasy points. And if I look at Flacco real quick, he's been killing it the last couple of weeks. 3.5x, 5.5x, 4x on his salary. He's no more expensive than he was last week. Last week he had a much tougher matchup against the Bears, much easier matchup here against the Texans. So I think it's going to be Joe Flacco. But at the same time, I think Justin Fields could be interesting. And I haven't even looked at MME. I'm actually out of town tomorrow, which is why I can't even join you. I'm going to be way up north. I'm not going to say where. I'll tell you offline if you're curious where I grew up. But I'm going to be up there for my family Christmas party. So completely not available tomorrow. So very limited MME. So I don't even really have a take there, Chris.
And that's wonderful. And I don't mind hopping in the Discord. I know I get so much things going on. It's like I feel like I have 5 phones, but I just got the one, and it's even hard to keep track with that. And I will say this, as I was writing, the running back portion of bottom of the barrel, every optimizer or any sort of simulation I pop up for the main slate, Justin Fields is always the QB1 that keeps popping up, and it is a beautiful play. And to go back with what you were saying, this week it's all chopped up and it's all weird, and we're looking at guys like Drew Lock or Geno Smith again, Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, I think Geno is going to have to play this week, right?
CJ Beathard. This is the kind of week I live for when you play GPPs and you write the kind of content that I do. But I'm going to go to the top really quick. I had a comment, some guy on Twitter maybe just didn't know the idea of bottom of the barrel, but he goes, well, Baker Mayfield doesn't really seem like bottom of the barrel material to me. And I said, look, it's not a diss. It's actually kind of a gift. It just means that his price tag based on expected results is going to be a lot higher than guys priced higher or more than him. And when you look at Dak Prescott or Baker Mayfield this week, which way would you go? I would go Baker Mayfield all day. Talk about what he's been as of late. He's been outstanding. Again, it helps that you have Chris Godwin and you have Rashid White and you have all these studs. I mean, every Monday on Good Morning Football, this past Monday, it was Chris Godwin was on Good Morning Football because he had 100+ yards and all this. But you look at Baker going against Jacksonville, and they're still leading their division, but they're grasping, they're hanging by a thread, and they need Trevor Lawrence to play. How he played last week and after,
I don't know. It's crazy.
Is nuts, but I love Baker Mayfield this week. You look at even our own guy, Jared Goff is on Sunday playing in Minnesota. Again, anytime the game is indoors and it's on turf, you got to look at Jared Goff splits. Something that I always say I'm going to do, but I never do. When Jared Goff is, it's not even road or home. It's like outdoors or inside. Anytime Jared Goff is indoors on turf, you got to look his way. And they're playing in Minnesota, and it's for the division. If they win, that's got to count for something. And I even love the idea of Gardner Minshew. Again, this will be the third or fourth week in a row I've mentioned Gardner Minshew. Indianapolis is at Atlanta.
Can I poke a hole in Goff though real quick? And I hate to say this, but everyone who watches this, and your hat gives it away and my jerseys give it away, but everyone who watches this routinely knows that we're Lions fans. And so we have a much deeper knowledge of, Detroit Lions than most people. And one thing I'll warn you about with Goff, and I know you know this, he is not good against pressure. And what team in the league brings the most pressure? That's Minnesota. They've been playing real well. So, MME, anything's in play. A guy like Jared Goff with the weapons that he has, I'm not saying to fade him. I just do want to put just the brakes on that a little bit and just say, careful, because, if you read into, like you said, the home and road stats, obviously everyone plays better at home. But playing in Minnesota is as close to a home game for Detroit as they're going to get. It's a dome. It's very similar, but that pressure rate really scares me, irrelevant to what I think about, how the game's going to go in real life. But I just want to mention that from an MME perspective. And
I don't want a prediction, though, because you did that same thing on Thanksgiving and you got embarrassed. But when you look at, again, you got to learn something, right? And again, Minnesota, we're going to play Minnesota 2 of the next, there's only 3 or 4 games left of the season, and we play them twice, and we only need 1 win. But when you look, there's got to be some sort of learning curve where, Dan Campbell or the defensive coordinator, who people are calling for his head on a pike, his head on a stick, there's got to be some sort of learning curve. But when you look at the quarterback position, it's slim pickings on the main slate. Therefore, you can look for Saturday. You wanted to pump the brakes. You don't have to play every slate. We were always talking and writing and broadcasting. You bet with what you got, right? Don't bet responsibly. You play comfortably. Don't mortgage your house to make a parlay.
Not on a 9-game slate, especially.
Don't do that at all. And then when we transition to the running backs position, we have a big positive. Jonathan Taylor is finally back. And when I looked at Jonathan Taylor, I thought he's been out the whole season. It's only been 3 games, something like that. He had
feels like it, don't it?
Yeah, he had thumb surgery, tore a ligament in his thumb. And I'm not kidding when I say he's only been out 3 games. I thought he's been out the whole season because he missed
the first 4 games on the IR. So
yeah, and then we talked about Zach Moss. So there it is. Yeah, I had no idea because I don't pay attention to those higher price guys. I never, go that route. But on FanDuel, Jonathan Taylor's the most expensive running back. On DraftKings, it's Rashad White, who's the most expensive running back, and he's 7-7 on FanDuel, 7-4 on DK.
Rashad White on FanDuel.
Yeah, Tampa Bay playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. So when we look at the main slate for running backs, you don't have that Christian McCaffrey kind of guy to just plug and play at $10,000 and you're going to get 2 touchdowns and 100 all-purpose yards with the snap of your fingers. What are you thinking for main slate cash running backs here? And I'm actually going to take notes because I got guys like Spears again and Sermon and Cordell Patterson. It's nuts.
So this week, like I said, has been weird because I think part of what makes the cash pool easier most weeks is there will be a CMC, a Tyreek Hill. I know Tyreek is on this slate, but when fully healthy, there's been guys that to this point this year, even on a Tuesday, almost every week, I've been able to lock a guy, if not two, in really early, and then obviously that helps funnel the lineup into less places, and it makes the pool a lot easier to build. That's part of the problem this week is there isn't anybody. If I look on DraftKings, if I tell you the top four names, first of all, two of them are on the same damn fucking team, and none of them are guys that at least this year you look at and go, oh yeah, there's a stud. The top four guys: Rashad White, Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Taylor, Devin Achane. So that's the top of the list. So those are theoretically, the best plays, right? But anyways, from DFS perspective here for cash, Ty Chandler is the one that stands out. And I don't love the matchup against the Lions D. If I go look it up right now, Lions defense is 10th schedule adjusted fantasy points to running back. So, not like world beaters, but they were a lot better earlier in the season. They've been a lot worse as of late. The Lion defense has been giving up points like a sieve for almost 2 months now. But Ty Chandler, his price is just, he's going to be the guy there. So he's the guy that really stands out to me. He's been getting some work in the passing game, at least 3 catches, 3 of the last 4 games. So gets decent work. He's cheap, and obviously on such a small slate, value is important. So I like him. Devin Singletary, matchup is rough against Cleveland. Let's see. I come over here and I look, and Cleveland is 11th schedule adjusted fantasy points. So again, not terrible, but less than ideal. But Singletary's taken over this backfield. 26 carries last week, for God's sakes, and he threw 4 catches in there. The guy scores a touchdown. He's 5.6x on the day. Without a touchdown, he was 4.5x. That's crazy. To hit that number without scoring a touchdown it just doesn't happen, very often. Chuba Hubbard, a guy that I know you've talked about throughout the season here. He's really taken over that backfield.
Those are the 2 guys that got locked in. I'm not going anywhere else. I've already a main slate. It's Hubbard and it's Singletary for me. I got them both highlighted, and I have blurbs on both of them. And the article will be out shortly after this video. But it's a no-brainer for Chuba and Singletary. But I'll let you have your moment here, Dave.
Yeah, but those 3 guys are all on DraftKings, all basically the same price, 55, 56, 5,700. Chuba's got at least 20 carries. He's got, matter of fact, 22 carries at least each of the last 3 games. Couple catches out of the backfield as well. I know Green Bay hasn't been the best against the run.
138.8 yards a game they're allowing to opposing running backs, and they've hit the skids. They've lost 2 games in a row. Their defense is kind of reeling, and whatever the heck is going on in the front office with Carolina, it's kind of trickled down to the field, right? Miles Sanders got a little bit of a boost, and now he's back down given the fact that Hubbard had all that work this past week. And I just think that when you look at this matchup here on FanDuel, he's only $6,400. No brainer to pair with Devin Singletary as well. He's supplanted Damon Pierce as well.
Yeah,
this guy
sure.
was like in season. I know seasonal formats, it's like you're either done or out, and a lot of folks gravitate back towards DFS, but Singletary, it's like he was pushed down for a week or 2, and Damon Pierce was supposed to be the RB1, talked about in the same breath as Jonathan Taylor and guys Derrick Henry before the season started. Let's be honest, he's going to get a ton of work, and he's been a no-show, but had nothing going on, basically injury. But Devin Singletary's been a pleasant surprise, and I think in week 9 here, him and that Hubbard combo that got me feeling this way. And it's more times than not, it's good if you're going to broadcast, right? If you're going to try and do this professionally and get paid a couple bucks, whip out some statistics and stuff, because it's not always a good idea to come on a broadcast and go, well, I think it's going to be Chuba Hubbard and Devin Singletary because I got a feeling in my stomach. But it is what it is sometimes.
Yeah, and so to wrap up, Hubbard here, 18th is what Green Bay is schedule adjusted to running back. So above average matchup. In pretty much the same price range, Breece Hall as well. He's going up against Washington. They're second to last, 31st here schedule adjusted fantasy points. Recent form, not all that great. One time over 3x in the last 4 weeks. That was a 4x week. But it's Washington. Breece Hall is when healthy, an elite back. I know that offense is really iffy, but I mean, he's in play. We talked about Rachaad White. We talked about Jonathan Taylor. Those are guys that we can expect to get, volume from. So, I mean, I do like both of those guys. And then Kenneth Walker, I don't know why he wouldn't play. Says he's expected to play coming off of 19 carries last week. And that was against Philly. He put up over 3x against Philly. Tennessee's a better matchup. So those are the guys that, I'm kind of gravitating toward. But it really is the top 3 guys are the guys that that's a different tier to me. It's Chandler, Singletary, Hubbard, and then, the other guys. And it's really a price thing because obviously White and Jonathan Taylor are better plays, but obviously, we know what makes DFS fun is the strategy. And so, the salary comes really heavily into play. So, it's weird to be like, I like Ty Chandler better than Jonathan Taylor. You get some of those redraft guys who go, what is this guy smoking dope? Like, what is he talking about? But DFS-wise, salary plays a huge role. You know that.
Absolutely. I want to look at the Chicago Bears briefly. When you see Chicago's playing Arizona, this late in the season, it's all, you always pick on the bad defenses and the bad teams. And if the optimizers and all these, simulations like Justin Fields, and that means him and DJ Moore are going to be paired up well. I'm sure he'll be talked about when we get to wide receivers for a cash pool for you. But, a lot of what I've seen so far this week, stay away from Donta Foreman. He hasn't been around. He's been away for personal reasons. I can't find why or what's going on. But always this late in the season, one thing happened last year and the year before, Donta Foreman comes through. Whenever I was in a pinch late in the season and I'm playing DFS and I need a running back, look what he did last year. He carried a lot of DFS and seasonal teams with the Carolina Panthers last year, putting up 100-yard game after game after game, for like a stretch. And I think he's got it in him this year. When you look at Arizona, 32nd in my notes against opposing running backs.
Yeah, they're dead last, yeah.
And Foreman, only 5'9" on FanDuel, and on DraftKings, he's 4'7", and the rookie, Roschon Johnson. So, in my notes or in my head and what I'm thinking, the tradition of Donta Foreman coming through for us late in the season is one thing, but why can't we start another new tradition with the rookie, with Roschon Johnson, stepping up and being the man and him getting a handful of targets and touches? Because again, in the future, as we look through this thing for the Bears, I don't know what they have going on, but you got Johnson, you got Foreman, Herbert is in there. So a lot of folks it's like the shell game. I try and squeeze that phrase in almost every broadcast or every article I write, where you move the cups around really quick. And it's just, which cup is it under? Which cup is where's the ball under the cup? And you got 3 Chicago Bears running backs. Yeah. So I'm going to pick 2 of them. I'm going to pick Foreman and Johnson and go with it and fill my lineup elsewhere. When we look at Washington as well, even Brian Robinson hurt, Antonio Gibson.
So Brian Robinson is out.
Yeah, he absolutely, and he was out last week, and Gibson didn't see much work. But I think this week in Washington, against the Jets are allowing an X amount. That's not really cool to say. I'd have to scroll down in my notes, but they're allowing
schedule adjusted fantasy points for running back.
It's a beautiful matchup, but in an odd way, I think Chris Rodriguez Jr. sees 12 to 13 carries in comparison to Gibson. We'll see more of the passing down work. And when you look at the Jets, they're really good against wide receivers. So like it or not, the Commanders are going to be forced to look at the running back position. Therefore, Gibson and Chris Rodriguez Jr. I know that's a nasty combo of Antonio Gibson and Chris Rodriguez Jr., but there's a little something there that I see from an overall game theory perspective. And Chris Rodriguez Jr. is as cheap as it gets. 5.4 on FanDuel, only 4.5 on DK. And
for what it's worth, too, Rodriguez outrushed Gibson 10-4 last week too.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. And I have it almost again the same thing. I have Rodriguez around 12 to 13 carries, something along those lines. And then but Gibson will be targeted maybe 3 to 4 times. And what he does with those will be his own. And last but not least, I've been not once in my life have I ever been in or on Cordell Patterson and this circus of it, the Atlanta Falcons. It just came out this morning that the Atlanta Falcons were fined and the head coach was fined $25,000. The coach himself and the team was fined $75,000 for that game where Bijan didn't even see a touch in the first half. And in one of those interviews, you know, where they're running off the field and they stop the microphone, he said he just wasn't feeling that great. And then the next day, Bijan, it came out that he had a headache. He woke up in the morning with a headache and they said that he felt out of it. And the fact that they didn't say that in the injury report was against the NFL rules. So again, that the traveling circus, therefore Tyler Algier been in bottom of the barrel almost every week. Everybody's always, you know, why is Bijan not playing or Gibbs is, you know, all this nonsense. And Tyler Algier has been steady Eddie. He has been right in there, and his price tag, you mentioned Flacco, the price tag's not going up. It's staying the same, yet the yardage is slowly going up and going around there. So give me Tyler Algier and the Colt playing the Colts, who are 29th overall against opposing running backs. It's an absolute shit show for week 9, but we're making the best we can. We're polishing that turd on a Friday night.
Shining it up, baby.
Yes. When you look at wide receivers, other than you start with DJ Moore, I feel like you didn't expect to start with DJ Moore, but let's try out your improv shoes here and tell me why you love DJ Moore this week.
Well, the whole show is improv this week, but DJ Moore, I mean, Justin Fields is my, 1B quarterback this week. And, with Justin Fields, DJ Moore has been fantastic. I mean, if I go back and look here, I'm kind of, I think he's been back for 4 games. So 9 targets, 13 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets. So he's been getting the rock. And before last week, he had hit at least 4X in each one of those games. So, I mean, DJ Moore is a guy that, as it sits right now, and like I said, wide receivers where, for my cash pool, which is borderline irrelevant for this show, but huge for our All Access members, this is going to change. And I don't know if it's actually going to change the lineup or not. I anticipate that it will, because it's going to be value that opens up. If I had to put in a lineup right now, my wide receivers are DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson, and DK Metcalf. None of those guys are cheap. The value is coming at running back, and it's not normally how it works. Cash typically goes, either elite quarterback or pay down, at least one elite running back, pay down at tight end, pay down at defense, and then, wide receivers a mixed bag. Here, my cheapest wide receiver will be $5,800 on DraftKings for Garrett Wilson, who is even going to have a starting quarterback this week. And that starting quarterback was the backup to begin the season with. So, he's playing with a bit of an unknown. But Garrett Wilson, I've talked about this just ad nauseum as of late. But prior to this last week, where he only had 4 targets, he had 14, 7, 10, 8, 14, 13, 13, 12. So he was getting targets. He just wasn't necessarily always doing a lot with them. And so at that price, his upside, I liked him. This week, it's just kind of my pool at the moment is so small. It's almost like I got to play somebody, right? So, Moore, Wilson, DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, really, it isn't even a guy that typically makes the cash pool, let alone plays them, because a lot of times the cash pool revolves around, injuries or just, guys that are like clear target leaders. And that's not what Metcalf is. Last few weeks, 6 targets, 5, 8, 9. I mean, so that's not the volume I like to see, but I'm picking from what I have available, because Tennessee is terrible against wide receivers. Let's see, I looked 24th against receivers, and that number even surprises me. I thought they were worse than that.
I have 27th on, so we're all in the same boat. And if you're in on DK, then I'm in on the rookie JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, only 5.9 on FanDuel. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can go that route too. Michael Pittman, I believe last I saw, he is good to go for this week. I believe. I don't know that that's like official, but I think he's now fully expected to play. Let's see, going up against Atlanta. Where's Atlanta? Atlanta, geez, 12th schedule adjusted. But he's a guy kind of in the same mold of a Tyreek Hill, a Monter St. Brown, where honestly, I look up to see where, the matchup is. But I don't really give a shit, like he could be going up against any defense and I still like it because I go back and I look at his, and not counting last week, obviously when he got knocked out, weeks prior, 11 targets, 16 targets, 13 targets, 12 targets. That's what I want. I want volume. And even when he, got out last week, he still had 4 catches for 78 yards. So he was well on his way to another, awesome game. So I love that. Amari Cooper makes the list as well. Amari Cooper, I don't know if I'm going to keep him in the pool or not. But again, it came down to what was I going to do? Have 4 receivers in the pool. But,
the water would come out. Like, when you get in the bathtub as a grown man, the water would come out. So
I got to give some options here. And, he's a natural correlation with Joe Flacco. Again, I don't force correlation in cash, but it's nice when it happens. This comes down to the matchup. I said Houston 29th against quarterbacks. They're also 29th against wide receivers. So it makes sense. It makes sense to go that way. And then there's going to be other guys that are going to make their way in here. We got to see what's happening, first of all, with the Green Bay receivers.
Yes, that's what I was going to discuss when you were through.
Yeah, so, I've been playing Jane Reed all year. I'll kind of leave the Green Bay situation to you. I had originally a bunch of Jaguars in here. With Trevor Lawrence being out, I have pulled them all back. I still may or may not be interested in Parker Washington. We shall see. When I was running the lineups earlier today, even with his cheap salary, he still wasn't even making it in the lineups, and that's unusual. Usually, like, those are the guys you have to pull out because it's like, wow, you're overvaluing this. It's, the computer isn't as smart as we are, sometimes. But then, again, you want to play guys that you're not going to talk about. They're not in the pool right now because I don't know how you could afford them because there's no value on this slate really. But if you want to go CeeDee Lamb, you want to go Amon-Ra St. Brown, you want to go Justin Jefferson, you want to play one of those guys, just lock them in, figure out the rest. I get it. It's a shitty slate for wide receivers.
Yeah, and speaking to your point, every slate is different. Sometimes I spend up and I go heavy at the running back position. Therefore, I'm able to just say, throw darts at the wide receiver spot because I spent all my money on running backs. But this week, as I've said, when I lock in Hubbard and Singletary, it's like I'm able to go shopping at the higher up store, right? Like when you go to what are some of the higher ups? I don't even know. I don't even shop much. Macy's, Abercrombie and Fitch store, probably still expensive.
Is JC Penney still open? I'm not saying it's expensive.
Kohl's is where I go. That's where I got all my gear on. I got now. Kohl's is.
But real talk though, is JC Penney open? Are they out of business? They are still a thing.
Yep, but Kohl's and Target are probably the two hot spots, right? When you look at but at Kohl's it's mainly closed. The whole outer rim is closed. In the middle they have some homeware stuff. Yeah, they got homeware stuff and pillows. But Target takes it to another level. They have like little groceries at Target. So when we look at the wide receivers, when you get to Green Bay, on paper it's not the greatest matchup. They're in Carolina. Carolina is like 4th overall, but it's like they have so many talented, kids at wide receiver. You have Reed and Romeo, and now Wicks is coming on strong. And I have Wicks projected at not higher ownership, but I have Wicks projected at more points overall than a guy like Romeo Dobbs, who is more expensive. So to be fair, we can even move that down the ladder where we're fading the cheap guys for other cheap guys that are on the same team. And again, when you look at someone like Josh Reynolds, the Detroit Lions, they're in Minnesota. And if Minnesota is going to be bringing all this pressure constantly, it's going to be one of two things. Each play is going to be one of two things. It's going to be fumbles, sacks, or Jared Goff's going to be able to get the ball off pretty quick to where he needs to be. So
Sam Laporta
Sam Laporta is going to be a stone cold stud.
Mark Gibbs.
Josh Reynolds is kind of that burner, that speedster, but hey, sometimes that just toss it and go, and the receiver, will get under it when he can, kind of like
J-Mo.
remember that Mr. Perfect vignette where he threw the football and then he ran and caught his own touchdown.
I don't, but that sounds on brand. Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be the same thing for Josh Reynolds in a way. Goff was just going to toss up the ball. Reynolds would run underneath it. As we scroll down, it's when you get to the wide receiver position, obviously there's dozens more opportunities and players to be had than the running backs. But again, Parker Washington is wonderful. But again, if you like Michael Pittman and you like DJ Moore, I'm going to go there. The guys right behind them, like Alec Pierce, who's been, kind of okay the last few weeks. He had 100 yards and a touchdown in week 13, if I'm not mistaken. Jonathan Mingo has made bottom of the barrel on more than several occasions the past few weeks. They're playing against Green Bay, only $5,400.
Mingo popped up for me quite a lot. I manually took him out. So if I was going off of what I was running, Mingo was one of the guys that was constantly showing up. And I just personally removed him because
just based on like if it was popping up for you and everybody else is going to be in on him. Is that what you're thinking?
I kind of just don't trust it. I just don't trust it. I don't trust that offense. Not for cash, right? Like for MME, that's fine. I'm okay going that route. So maybe I should preface that. But for cash, even though he was popping, he was a guy that I pulled out on my own.
And this comment here, Rainey's Angels, I advise someone to start Bailey Zappi at Kansas City. Well, I don't think it was a seasonal question because I don't really get too many of them. And in DFS formats, Zappi's been okay given his price tag, and we go from there. So if I caused you to lose, I'm sorry. If you want to DM me, I'll refund you a couple bucks. I'll use Dave's money, and we'll refund you up. We'll refund you up to what, like $4 or $5?
Yeah. So two things real quick. Number one, Chris, I did not realize that you had access to this gentleman's account to where you could have forced him to play Bailey Zappi. But more importantly, that's our friend there who was talking about the whole "you got fired" stuff. That's your guy right there.
That I got fired? No.
Remember that was the guy that was talking weird.
Just switch spots. I've done it a few seasons, and it's like, you go where you feel the most wanted, right? It's not even a grass is greener kind of situation. It's where you feel wanted and respected. And, your work can be, seen. It doesn't even matter if it's seen by more people or less people. You just want to feel more comfortable with your thoughts and your ideas and everything I put down. Rarely does Joe ever tell me no. You've never told me no. And it's always like, what Beastie, whatever you want to do, you can do. And it cuts out all the nonsense and all the politicking. I'm not into the politics. Just give me a camera, a microphone, a pen, and a piece of paper, and I'm good. I don't want to be jockeying for position and things like that. I'm just here to give my thoughts and advice because if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. If you took all this stuff away, cameras and microphones and everything, I'd still wake up every morning and do my notes, and they'd be just for me or my friends. Like that's all realistically, that's all it started out as, just doing the notes for me to see them, to keep my mind, because my mind was just going crazy. And so I just write it down. So of course, if I give out, I wouldn't even say give out bad advice. I give out advice, and it's up to you if you want to accept that, take that, or go a different route. So once again, I apologize if you played Zappi and it was unfortunate results. More than likely, or excuse me, I should say more times than not, Dave, we are above board in terms of what we're saying and what players we're advising people to use.
The best example of that I can give is all of our private Discord, the all access members, right? They all get the inside scoop on everything that we talk about here and then a whole bunch, right? So I hand out on Sunday. I let everyone know, hey, this is what I'm doing in cash. I let them cheat off of my homework, right? If you use that cash lineup, because this is what I've done, I've cashed in 11 out of 15 weeks. I would dare anybody to be able to provide evidence that They have done better than that. Find you anyone that's won 12 out of the 15 weeks so far this year, and I would be shocked. So, what we have going on, that'd be like saying, hey, man, those 4 weeks you cost me money. Well, what about the other 11? What about, let's not just remember the bad times. Let's not, let's remember the good times as well. 11 out of 15, I believe it's 6 straight weeks too. So, it's all good here. Are you good with receivers? We go into tight ends, or you got some more?
No, just like Mr. Green said, I said that the Pats were going to be chasing points, and absolutely, Kansas City won 27-17. And Zappe, I mean, he had 180 yards and a touchdown and 1 interception, a couple yards. What do you have on the ground? I don't even think he Zappe 2 yards on the ground. So it wasn't.
He's a cheap play.
Yeah, he didn't win you any money, but he didn't, again, I don't know what high of a ownership percentage you had. Now I got to look back at my notes really
ownership
quick.
on Zappe was under 5, probably like 2 or 3. I would imagine.
He was that in last week. He was 6-3 on FanDuel, $5,000 on DraftKings. I said he'd have around 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I was off a touchdown and 100 yards. That is not cause for concern, but it happens in today's day and age. So once again, I apologize. You can DM Dave and he'll refund you.
Yeah, I'll give you $3. What's that? Like $4 in Canadian?
So. Yeah, the loony. So yeah, I'm good with receivers, as you said. So you can kick us off at tight end because we know your strategy when it comes to tight ends. There is no strategy.
No, there is a strategy. The strategy at tight end is pay down. That's been my strategy for years. And that has been a strategy that has not worked all season long. I have well, that's not true because we played Tucker Kraft last week. And I don't know if Keith Fleming is still on here. He may well be knowing Keith.
He's been a gem ever since you mentioned him on the Thanksgiving Day games. He's been a gem.
I honestly would have to go back and look, but I don't think I have missed on my actual tight end play all season long. It's been real good. And I haven't really paid down. I mean, early in the season, well, not early in the season, but earlier in the season, there was some Trey McBride weeks before he got crazy expensive. Those were not pay downs, but, on DraftKings in the past, I've usually been 3,000 and under on tight ends. This year, it's been a lot of, the $3,000 to $3,500 range, which is normally, I wouldn't call that a pay up by any means, but that was normally more than I wanted to spend. But they've done a good job of pricing up tight ends this year. And so, again, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone. And I've actually got a tight end locked in this week. As a matter of fact, I got 2 players currently locked in. Joe Flacco is the first one. I am playing him unless something crazy happens. The other one is David Njoku. Now, it happens to be natural correlation. It's completely unintentional, just the way it works out.
And Cooper. So you got the Cleveland trio.
Well, I'm not playing. I'm picking one. I'm not playing both, which is why I said Cooper's in my player pool, but I probably should just take him out. But David Njoku, last week, 14 targets, 10 catches, 104 yards, and a tutty. Week before that, 8 targets, 6 catches, 91, and 2 touchdowns. And then, I've been talking about how much volume this guy had been getting. Prior to that, targets 6, 9, 15, 9, 6, 8, 9. I could go on and on. He said at least 3x, which is the number I look for in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the last 9 weeks. He has hit 6x, so double what it is that I'm just hoping for each of the last 2 weeks. It's got a matchup against Houston. We talked about how bad they were against quarterbacks, how bad they were against wide receivers. They're not any better against tight ends. I look it up real quick. They are where? They are 24th against tight ends. So he's expensive now. I mean, I was playing him, just a month ago, he was 4,100 on DraftKings. Now he's up to 53.
Way back when, yeah.
But my God,
those were the days, right?
Yeah, those were the days. But, so anyways, Njoku I have locked in with Flacco. Again, not because it's correlation, just because I love those 2 plays. Trey McBride is on this list too. He's more expensive than David Njoku. $7,000
on FanDuel.
$7,000, 57 on DraftKings. I need a drink real quick.
But you'd be making a decision while you're drinking. I'll answer this question. Mr. Green's got another question. Do we think, how do I like Zeke this week? Well, you write this down. I have some projections, and they're going to be okay. I have Zeke 16 to 17 carries, around 70 yards, and then 4 to 5 receptions for another 30 yards. So I'm not saying Zeke is a safe bet for 100 all-purpose yards, but he's going to be right around 100 all-purpose yards, which means rushing and receiving. So given the fact that Zeke is not on the main slate, but if you wanted to use Ezekiel Elliott, have at it. The Patriots have, I mean, at this point, they just want the season to be over with. But Zeke Elliott, still not an elite guy anymore, but again, almost 100 all-purpose yards, 16 to 17 carries, and a few receptions for you, Mr. Green.
Yeah, so Trey McBride, getting back to him real quick, basically a wide receiver in tight ends clothing, right? I talked about that last week. And what does he do? 11 targets, 10 catches, 102 yards. So those are wide receiver numbers. And it's been like that for a while. Last week, 2 weeks ago, 9 targets, 8 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. Again, those are wide receiver numbers. 7 for 60 on 9 targets. 8 for 131 on 9 targets. 10 for 95 with a touchdown on 14 targets. The dude's a wide receiver. He just plays tight end. Again, a month ago, we lost BC. All right. So anyways, a month ago, he was down to 4,400 on DraftKings. Now he's up to 5,700. So, you're paying up there. I think it's more of an MME play. But, cash-wise, if, we have the value at running back, I'm sure you can find value. There will be value as the week goes on when we get, one of the Green Bay guys, for example, is going to be in play. And we'll be able to use him. Well,
I got hacked. I don't know what happened. That was weird.
Randy's Angels hacked you.
Yeah.
I was talking about McBride. I didn't, so we're good. And then last guy, if you want to save some money, and I know Chris is going to like this one, Tyler Conklin. Yeah. I don't know what we're going to get from the quarterback, but going up against Washington, Washington's terrible. What are they? 29th schedule adjusted to tight ends. And Conklin in his last 5 games, 7, 6, 9, 5 targets. If the dude could ever just get in the end zone, as I scroll back here, no touchdowns this year. But he's been returning solid value. God forbid he gets in the end zone, and that alone is going to pay off his price tag. But for me, it's Njoku, McBride if you want to go that direction. Even if you want to an MME, and I don't often say this, that, Chris. If you wanted to an MME, Njoku and McBride in the same lineup. With the volume they're getting, you're playing 2 cheap wide receivers to some extent. You're just able to put one of them at the tight end spot. But
absolutely, yeah, it's a wonderful plan. And I'm always when you get to tight ends, it's a strategy I use for single game slates, and I say it all the time. You use one at the MVP captain, and then the other guy in flex, and then you flip it around, vice versa. When it comes to tight end, I'm squeezing every dime I have and I'm putting it into the wide receiver position. As we know so far, Chuba and Singletary, and then I'm squeezing every ounce of money and things I can get from the wide receivers. So when we look at tight ends here, there could be a case for to be goose egged, and I never like that term, don't like to use it, but in certain weeks, I wouldn't advise taking this advice, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. But guys like Luke Farrell, Tommy Tremble is questionable, but if he is active, Josh Oliver, the Minnesota Vikings tight end against the Lions, only 4,500. Guy named Will Mallory in Indianapolis, he's kind of stepped up in the tight end role for the Colts. And again, these guys are the absolute definition of bottom of the barrel. There's no promises. There's no projections. It's just what you see is what you get based on DVP and based on price tag. Jeremy Ruckert, right? If we like Conklin for the Jets playing Washington, then Jeremy Ruckert as well. He's only 45 on FanDuel. So to me, the tight end position is get as cheap as you can. I'm treating tight end like the DST. So I've actually put in every other, like I put in the DST before the tight end. Normally defense special teams, that's the last one we plug in. You and I are always simpatico on that. This week, I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm putting my DST first, and then whatever money I have left, I'm just doing a quick scroll, and I'm looking at the opposing team. I'm looking at the team implied point totals for said game, and I'm going from there. And again, like even Mo Alley Cox to a certain extent, Durham Smythe, Miami's playing Dallas. He's only $4,700. So to me, the tight end position is it's not good, but the top of it's so front loaded, right? Top heavy, as you said, Laporta, McBride, TJ Hawkinson, David Njoku, Evan Ingram. After that, it's kind of a wasteland. The only guy I would consider after Njoku and Terry McBride, you took the words out of my mouth, would be Jake Ferguson. You know, you talked about, you and I both talked about, what's his name? Justin Fields popping up in every optimizer or simulation that we run. Same could be said for me when it comes to tight ends, and Jake Ferguson is popping up everywhere when I'm looking at the tight end position. They're in Miami. He's $6,000 on FanDuel. You can kick in another extra $1,000 and get Trey McBride instead. So you have to make a decision, and there's no in between when it comes to tight end. There's no middle ground for tight end this week. It's either all or nothing. It's either Trey McBride or it's Josh Oliver, something like that. So the choose your own adventure kind of story for tight ends.
Well, let me throw something at you then, because for MME, you know, again, the pricing has been up on tight ends this year, as I mentioned earlier. Once upon a time, you know, it was, you know, punt tight end, punt defense, and worry about the rest. I haven't been able to punt tight end so much this year. But in years past, though, when there has been a situation where there isn't an obvious punt tight end, but yet, you know, every good tight end is too much, here's what I used to do. I simply used to just pair my tight end with my quarterback. So if I was, you know, whoever I was playing, right, it would just be a way that I wouldn't consider him as part of the stack, so to speak. I would just add that as just a double stack, because the way that I looked at it was this. I've got a handful of, well, probably more than a handful. I've got a baker's dozen of crappy tight ends that I'm quote unquote interested in. And so I would just go ahead and say, you know what? I'm chasing a touchdown. In all reality, I'm looking for a touchdown. None of these guys are going to be worth a shit if they don't get in the end zone. So if I'm just pulling names out of a hat, that's just, I might as well play the lottery at that point, right? So
correct.
Why not just simply say, I'm just going to say, all right, my quarterback this week is, you know, Justin Fields. Well, I can't afford Cole Kmet, so I'm going to play Robert Tonyan. You know, like, you know, one of those kind of things, so I can't play David Njoku. So, God, who's the backup? Oh, is it Harrison Bryant, right? So
correct, which is who was supposed to be a thing. He was looked upon as the next great tight end, like Trey McBride could be.
Yeah. But that's my advice. If you're going to go that route, which I am 100% cool with in MME, what I would simply suggest then is, instead of just kind of randomly picking a guy, you just simply take your quarterback and either play the starting cheap tight end or just play the backup and just hope that, you know, they get that random touchdown. You're double dipping. That's how I would go about it. Just something that I've learned over the years.
That's a great strategy.
If you're going to go random, at least let it correlate in your lineup.
When I scroll, you know, that is a wonderful, wonderful way to put it. I scroll and I look for green when it comes to DVP, and then I'll click a few names, and I look for little streaks, you know, streakiness, right? Like that. What did I say? That Josh Weil kid, the Tennessee Titans.
Sure.
He caught a touchdown last week in like 30 yards. So let's double back to him this week, just to see what we get, right? And again, Will Levis is in bottom of the barrel at quarterback. That is an extremely unique, you know, double combo, you know, Will Levis and Josh Weil. But that's how I look at tight end, especially on a week like today. You scroll, I look for green, then I click and I see, has it been streaky at all? One or 2 weeks. And if the guy scored a touchdown last week, I'm more inclined to play him this week on the just in case we see a touchdown little streak thing going here. But as we're coming up on around 52 minutes of this broadcast, it's live, it's free. We're at fantasy6pack.net. If you're still with us, doubt you are, you might want to watch the replay.
No, I don't think it's a doubt you are, because we talked about this on Sunday, you know, when we go live on Sunday, and, you know,
Just leave it open on your browser.
Yeah, we said, at least I said, hey, on Friday, because lately we've been kind of really trying to, let's stay on task here, 30, 35 minutes. And so I said, you know what, on Friday, it's, tis the season, how we're coming up on Christmas and whatnot. I said, let's go back to just running our mouths, having fun, because when we do the 35-minute thing, it's all right. I got these guys to talk about. This guy's, there's no personality. We're not having fun. It's just like, it's great information. Don't get me wrong.
You're Dictator Dave. Let's just call it what you're Dictator Dave. I get told what I can and can't do, and all this.
Shut up, Chris.
All this nonsense.
But this week, I feel like this episode. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're giving solid information still, just as always. But I'm having a good time. You know what I mean? If I'm having a good time and you're having a good time, I imagine that everyone's having a good time while hopefully, preparing that rough draft as we talk about before we get together on Sunday. Once we have information, this Sunday, I think, is going to be probably the most important inactive, so when they kick it to us at noon and I go over inactives, I think there's going to be a lot going on. So me personally, maybe take this advice, to whoever's listening here as well. If you're the person that, spends Friday nights or time on Saturday building your lineups and getting them set, and ready to go for Sunday, don't do that this week. I think if you're honestly building lineups, not just to see what it kicks out and, what combinations work well together. If you're literally building lineups with the anticipation of using them on Sunday, and just stop what you're doing. Go enjoy time with your family. Go watch TV. Go relax. Do something else, because things are going to change this week. I can tell you right now, you're going to just be doing it all over again on Sunday. So just take that advice and do something other than building lineups right now. Save it for Sunday, late morning. I don't want to say in the morning. I want to say late morning.
Will you do me a favor? Mr. Ross Canyon asked a question, and I have a legitimate answer, and it's no, I have not won the Millie Maker as of yet. Just curious if you have a chance. We all have a chance, but here's the thing with the Millie Maker: it's a tale of two cities or two things. It's either for the regular Joe like us, the working class guy, right? It's literally a lotto ticket, right? You can go to the closest party store, get a scratcher, and scratch it off. That's what we're doing. Or you have an endless amount of funds where you can continuously max enter the Millie Maker.
$3,000 a week to play the Millie Maker.
Bingo, right? I don't have $3,000 a week to play the Millie Maker, and if I was making $3,000, or if I had $3,000 a week in expendable cash, I probably wouldn't use it to play the Millie Maker.
I wouldn't either, honestly. And this is what we do, and I still wouldn't do it. It's like a catch-22. So it's either the regular Joes like us who have, I'm going to get wild this week. I worked some overtime. I got an extra, $50, $150. I'm going to put in a few lines to the Millie Maker and see what I get. Or you get the guys in the offices that are actually funded by companies and professional gamblers and websites, and they say, we'll give you your entry fee. We'll give you $10,000 in entry fees, and you can use it how you want to. Use it to enter the Millie Maker, and we'll see what you get, right? Because there are, if I'm not mistaken, there's maybe I can count on one hand the number of people that have repeated in winning the Millie Maker, and I think there's been one guy who's won it 3 times, second guy twice, and the rest are just one-offs. So to me, I know one guy that's won it twice, but other than that, I know personally one guy, but it's not many that win it multiple times. When it comes to the Millie, it's so top heavy that in reality, if you played it for a couple, let's say you did play it, every week, max it out, you are going to have to win it at some point to be able to get that back. It is not a ROI. It's not an investment tournament. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
There's no rhyme or reason to it.
No, it is a very low EV tournament. It is just for people who want that screenshot. It is probably the worst tournament that you can play as far as expected value is concerned.
Absolutely, because you'll have the win. Let's say, just for example, week one, right? The first play of the game, Aaron Rodgers goes down, and they put in Zach Wilson. And let's say in a fake world, in week one, Zach Wilson threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he wasn't the starting quarterback, and nobody on earth had him in any lineups yet. The guy or girl who won the Millie Maker, had Zach Wilson as their starting quarterback, and you look and you're like, how is this? What sane individual? What sane individual would have put this lineup together? There's no rhyme or reason to the winning the Millie Maker. It is like winning the lottery, like the Hunger Games. What is that? The tribute. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to winning that. So yes, we all have a chance, especially you. And we will move on to the DSTs. We're at 58 minutes, as I was getting to Friday, fantasy 6-pack, and mention a couple DSTs so we can tie this thing up in a bow and get the heck out of here.
I mean, it's silly this week. I don't think there's much that stands out. The only thing that stands out from a cash perspective to me, Buccaneers going up against Jacksonville, backup quarterback there. The Bears, they've been so good since they got Montez Sweat. And Kyler Murray is not opposed to taking sacks. He's not opposed to throwing interceptions. They've got at least 9 points in 3 straight games, 9 and 4 straight, 14 and 3 straight. Now, we know how volatile defenses are, so they literally could go for -2 this week. But I mean, they're a solid bet for cash. As it sits right now, the Bears are my cash defense. And then the Jets, of course, right? The Jets, fantastic defense. We know that they are shorthanded on offense. Their defense has put up a lot of green numbers here as well against Washington, who gives up as many sacks as anybody in the league. So you can expect that, a good defense against a team that has been giving up a lot of sacks and turnovers and stuff with their volume. That makes for a good play. Saying all of that, I would probably avoid those 3 defenses in MME because they're going to be the popular ones. So, for cash, however it works out there's a range of salaries there on DraftKings. They're all within 500 of each other. So fill out the rest. How much do I have left? Play the most expensive of that group and go on with your life. For MME, I would start off by Xing those 3 off and then find one of the others.
Yep. And I have 2 that you didn't mention. It's probably nuts. The Seattle Seahawks, they go and they're playing in Tennessee, and even the Arizona Cardinals, they're playing against Chicago. And again, what we've talked along at this broadcast about Justin Fields and DJ Moore and all that. Once again, I don't care how many points the opposing team scores. I'm just looking for mistakes made. In Chicago on Sunday, it's going to be cold. It's going to be gloomy. It's going to be crappy. Mistakes will be made. Justin Fields, has he taken that next step in his development? That would be for someone else in a different profession to explain or to discuss here. But when we look at what the Arizona Cardinals can do against Fields on that nasty home field turf, whatever they got going on, I love the Cardinals. I love Seattle. And again, Arizona only 3-3 on FanDuel, Seattle 3-5 on FanDuel. You mentioned Tampa Bay. And again, the Washington Commanders, to a certain extent, they're only $3,800 on FanDuel. They're going against the Jets, and the Jets are dead last in terms of giving up points to opposing DSTs. So the Commanders are in an okay spot here at only $3,800. And again, I would fade the Dallas Cowboys or the Falcons or Houston Texans, something like that. Cleveland could put a hurting on them, but to me, it's about Seattle or Arizona. And again, let me rephrase that. You did mention Seattle because I wrote it down as you were speaking. So I guess by process of elimination, Dave, the Arizona Cardinals are my favorite GPP DST this week.
Yeah, that's how, hard to go wrong with anyone. You never know what's going to happen. But we talk about this is our rough draft version of things. This week, as much as any other, is really a rough draft version. We've had, it's already a small slate. We've got, guys out that at least I was interested in playing. We've got guys that we don't know who is going to play yet. So, take everything with a grain of salt because, we get together Sunday, 12 o'clock Eastern. We wrap up the fantasy 6-pack, whatever the hell they call it. But anyways, we wrap that up. We go at 12 o'clock. We go until, I don't know, 12:30, 12:35, 12:40, 45, maybe. It just depends what happens.
Till Dictator Dave starts giving me the high sign. And
yeah,
so now we got to get out of here. I got lines.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up, big boy. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you like this, you're going to love the Sunday. Like I said, 12 o'clock. Check us out. I don't think that you will regret it unless you're going to hold us to every single thing that we say, because one of them is bound to be wrong. And then you can be like Randy's Angels and come back whimpering. But I don't think he's ever asked for my PayPal for, the other weeks whenever, he's played guys that I'm sure has won him money. He's not offering to give me any of that back. So
I don't mind the transparency.
No,
keeps
we're
me
gonna
honest,
we're going to miss stuff. I'll be the first to tell you that right now. I mean, anyone who says otherwise is full of shit. And I would happily and politely and professionally say that to their face. So
absolutely.
So Chris, it's been a pleasure. I had fun on this one. We just ran our mouths, and I questioned your hat choice, but so be it. It is what I know. I understand, but we'll pull back the curtain there. I questioned the hat choice before we came on here, but appreciate everybody tuning in. Hopefully we will see you Sunday at noon
on Christmas Eve. Be good, be safe. Talk to you.